Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. What a weekend we've had so far. Welcome back to the Power Up Cup. It is myself, Ultrazim, and joining me for tonight's action is Sun Phoenix. Sun, how are you doing, my friend?
As well as can be expected in these trying times. I would have casted many of these games we've been watching so far, but unfortunately, as I'm sure is the case with many of our players, I've been saddled with many an hour of load shedding. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be casting some competitive Overwatch 2. Of course, you and I, Ultrazim, have seen a lot of Overwatch 2. I mean, you more than me, perhaps, but South African Overwatch 2 through the Ragnarok Cup at the end of last year. But this is where we really want to be, I think. We want to be seeing teams that have practiced, prepared, teams that are trying to really achieve something here. And that's what the Power Up Cup brings. We haven't had a competitive Overwatch tournament since I think the end of not last year, the year before, with the 80k Overwatch tournament. So I'm super keen to see some teams coming in here with fire and some prepared strats.
Oh yeah, that's what the Power Cup is all about. It is our first tournament for Kalza for 2023, and hopefully the first of many right now, just to inspire everyone, just to lift the spirits. Like you say, load shedding, kind of getting everyone down. So this one shedding a little bit of light into our lives. And you talked about the teams that we're getting to see in this tournament, some big names that we're getting to see revitalizing that Overwatch career. Of course, we did start on Friday with a couple of brand new teams there. Thomas Moore taking on Catalyst. Cryptic, sorry. And then last night we did manage to get to see Beastie Boy invigorating themselves, taking on Typo. And tonight for you, ladies and gentlemen, we have some stacked rosters. XvG Ragnarok versus Blackwatch.
Yeah, two teams whose names might not be that familiar, but when we go through the players, you'll understand why we're excited to see these two teams play against each other. A lot of familiar faces, mixed in with a couple of brand new faces, but you'll be able to tell from the quality of some of the players on these rosters that this is going to be a very good match. Of course, you mentioned Beastie Boys versus Typo yesterday. Probably two of the best teams in the tournament, maybe. I think a lot to look forward to coming out of that one, but this is another pair of teams that might have a lot to offer towards the pointy end of this Swiss-style tournament.
Well, that's the exciting thing, right? Is 13 teams signing up for this, and while we certainly are very encouraging of the new teams that are coming in here, they have to go against some very experienced players. And I don't think that they're coming into this looking to take it, really. But when you look at the teams from yesterday, Typo and Beastie Boys, and even the teams here tonight with the really long-standing player base that these two teams boast, these are teams that really want to kind of hit this year hard and get going with some very good results. And certainly either of these teams or the teams we saw last night could be one of those teams in the finals.
Absolutely. Worth noting that not every team will come to this tournament, super prepped. Some of them, put together these teams just to play in competitive Overwatch. I mean, it's fun no matter how prepared you are, especially when you've been playing Overwatch competitively for a long time, So in that way, we've got two teams today that are kind of coming from different directions when it comes to preparation and how their sort of outlook coming into 2023 and into the Power Up Cup.
Yeah, 100%. Whether you are coming in through the pickup games that have started being a thing again, a lot of teams starting to come together, just finding people to play with. That's all we really want at the end of the day at Overwatch. It's certainly better than solo queuing. Can talk from experience there. But having some people that you just play with on a regular basis is a really nice play. So some of these teams may be coming in just for the first taste to see what the competitive ladder looks like, whereas other teams really, I'm sure they're grinding pretty hard already into the season.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we can run through the rosters quickly. We've got XvG Ragnarok here, so a lot of familiar names. We've got Lord of Terrans taking the role of captain and the tank role, so that's a movement from him. Of course, we know him pretty well as a flex DPS, likes the Genji, the Pharaoh, all those sorts of heroes. Then we've got Rexu and Rinku Hareru on the DPS. Two players also we know quite well. Rink's been a part of Odyssey, or had been for quite a while. And Rexu kind of floated about for a while. I think ended up on Beastie Boys again, I want to say, but spent a lot of time on Leiden as well in 2020 or 21. Who knows at this point? It's the years old. There's so much going on these days. And then we've got KK and Restiosen on supports. KK a part of the Legion squad, Re-Ace Legion, from a few years ago, and Restiosen, a part of another team whose name is now escaping me. But a lot of every single one of those players we will GTG. Every one of these players we will have seen play before, some more than others, but a lot of strong names. The player to keep an eye on here, I think for sure, is Rexu. He can often do a lot of work on the Pharah especially. He can really be a game changer for any team he's on. So that's a player we're going to have to keep an eye on for XvG Ragnarok.
It always impresses me when you get to remember every one of the lineups that these guys have had. That's certainly a skill I haven't managed to develop so far since Phoenix there. Well, I was going to say that until you forgot like the last half of that.
I know. Only the last player, just the one, right? Just Restiosen, who, to be fair, is the player on this team who joined competitive Overwatch in South Africa the most recently. So,
well, I'm hoping you can help me out for the Blackwatch lineup, because like you say, I recognize a lot of these players, but I don't know exactly where they're filled in. So obviously the big one coming out there is Elven Slayer on the tank. Tank being such an important role now, it's really nice to see both of the teams coming up with very experienced tank players. And so, like you said, Lord of Terran's kind of moving into that role, but Elven Slayer was someone we're very used to seeing on that big main tank role. Backed up, of course, by L, the new, I think, international player is what production said to us just before this one. So a very dark horse there, very unknown quantity in L coming into that one DPS role. The other DPS, Lavia, so definitely a well-known presence here. A highly coveted player in many different esports, in fact, all of them being don't stand still for too long or he will shoot you no matter what kind of thing. So very important to see, and that matchup, I think, between Rexu and Lavia is going to be a very interesting one to see who can dominate and get those frags very early onto it. And then Honey, a new player into the scene completely, coming up as well, taking that captaincy role. So we're excited to see what she can do on that first support role, and then backed up by another familiar face in the scene, Vertigo.
Yeah, a player we know very well. The Queen of Peel, we called her at one point. Not doing too much peeling these days with her/our role being excised from the game. I'm still a little bit salty about that. I don't know if you can tell, but she's moved over to support from that off-tank role, and very comfortable there, and has been for quite a long time. So Blackwatch, going to be an exciting roster to watch. A few big hitters to look out for sure.
Oh, it's going to be an impressive clash. And a couple of battlegrounds that we're used to seeing for a lot of these. Starting off with our first map being on Lijiang Tower. Sun, you and I have chatted about this a couple of times. Lijiang's so good, so diverse in terms of the different maps that can come out from this. Yeah,
absolutely. Like with most of your control point maps, each map offers something different. And Lijiang's one of those where Control Center, for example, you can get a totally different lineup than the other two maps. So it's going to be exciting to see what these teams do. And of course, if you lose the first map, the rest of the map can be so different that you don't really know the full story until the map's all said and done.
Yeah. I think the big one is going to be King's Row, where we really get to see how these two teams come up against each other. That's going to be map number 2, obviously a very favorite one. Shambali Monastery, Esperanza, all of those good maps coming later on in the evening. We'll see how far down that list we can get. But for now, we jump into Control. Whoever takes that point manages to get on there and get that percentage up to 100% for 2 of the 3 different maps here is going to take this round. If you guys the new touch. If you are just seeing someone that you like playing for the first time, maybe you've just jumped into this and don't have each of these quite figured out right now, and we're starting in Control Center. Sun Phoenix, what are we looking at for these two teams, both of them going for very mobile lineups?
Yeah, surprisingly enough, we tend to think of Control Center as a very brawly map where you kind of want to get fists out and start punching away. So Elven Slayer on this ball is not too shocking to see. The Monkey's an interesting one, but when I mentioned earlier that these two teams are coming in with different levels of preparation, XvG Ragnarok have been formed around October and have been playing and practicing ever since, coached by Blur. So they're gonna be the ones to set the pace here, I think.
Well, there we did see Ragnarok managing to take a nice big flank around the outside and try and catch this other side off guard, but kind of just scattered was the side here led by Elven Slayer. And Trey's coming out both ways between them. Lord of Terrans jumps into the air, does manage to deny the res. Very nice takeout on Honey, backed up by Rinku Hareru. And it seems like XvG now just need to kind of clean up the rest of that, even getting the headshot onto Diddley in the air.
Yeah, dive composition obviously is what we're seeing from Ragnarok here, and that's the kind of composition you need to have all your ducks in a row. So if you've come out practice, if you know how to run this comp, it can be extremely powerful, and it's just about finding targets and picking them off efficiently, and that's what we saw there. Sure, they lost the first player, but they quickly managed to pick up kill after kill after kill on the side of XvG Ragnarok and just cleaned up nicely. So let's see what they can do here coming to the next fight, but the onus is on Blackwatch to respond to how Ragnarok are playing this.
I think a large part of this lineup here from Blackwatch is how well they get that damage in there and then follow it up quickly. You know, you got L, who is DDLY in the game, but I'm just going to call him Y.
Oh my god.
That is massive, actually. While they do get the pick out onto Rexu turning that around, gets the stick with that pulse bomb and starts it out there. Blackwatch not able to really extend that into any sort of contention of the point just yet. But what an interesting little play, certainly showing what Rexu can do.
Yeah, and the follow-up there was perfect from Rinku Herrera as well, identifying that the Mercy is the key once you take down the Pharah, because you need to camp that body, prevent the res, and he did that perfectly, forcing Honey back and not able to get the res. So it could have ended up being a pretty bad trade, but it worked out well for them. But here we go. Ultimate at the ready here. Sound barrier already pushed through. This might be a big play from Pharah.
That was a very early sound barrier, but it seems like, oh, there is a justice from above. Farah's barrage trying to get something out, only takes out KK before getting taken down. Rinku Herrera is so quick on these counter attacks. The rest of Blackwatch still trying to push in here. They've used the Valkyrie, is going to be able to get L back up into this, and so the Pharah joining back into the fray here while Elven Slayer takes control of this point. The damage coming in from above is very good now. Blackwatch really has a good position into this. Ooh. They're going to have to watch out though for the Dragon Blade. Dragon Blade takes out the Pharah straight away. Rexu's still doing work, and that's all that Rexu's going to be able to get. Nice Suzu there for the side here of Ragnarok to be able to stay alive. And Ragnarok has still managed to keep control of this point the whole way. They're on 99%, holding out for this overtime. So even if they give this up, they won't be too unhappy about it. Blackwatch, though, has so much work to do. They need to stay in here. Drops in that Kitsune Rush, trying to keep the few players that are alive in control of this. And it has at least been a turnaround. Blackwatch going to be able to start getting up some of their own percentage.
Yeah, I'd like to see Ragnarok here just back off now, reset. You've done everything you need to do. You're not going to force out any more ultis, or at least it's very unlikely here. So just start to build towards your next big ult fight. And they're coming in towards quite a few here. I have to say I'm very impressed with how Ragnarok is playing this. A lot of players are making big plays on their own. And shout out to Lord of Terrans, moving over from the DPS, historically speaking. And he's doing a great job of exerting himself for the match without overextending. I think he's only died once so far, but Rinku, on the other hand, he's going to drop first.
Oh, even with the Kitsune Rush here to start from Ragnarok, they've tried to go in and they have summarily been dispatched with a very clean fight there so far from Blackwatch.
Yeah, I might have liked to see Ragnarok actually just play that one a little bit more patiently in terms of ultimate usage. You don't need to win every team fight. You don't need to win any except the last one here, and they have the time to build up ultimates and use them. But they threw a couple in there. They threw the Pulse Bomb, the Kitsune Rush. So they're going to be coming in with Primal Rage, working towards the Sound Barrier. But Blackwatch are now in a pretty good position here with this Pharah ulti, and they're going to be challenging the Echo in the sky again. Link gets picked off first.
Really nice play so far. Both teams trading it out. Another barrage comes out there, supported by the team, but no one really in range to do damage with that. Now Lord of Terror is trying to split up this back line while Rexu doing work in the front lines there. It's not working out so far though. Blackwatch picking up a good couple of kills here. Has used that minefield on the points to just try and secure the play, stop anyone from Ragnarok being able to contest that. And it has still come out the way of Blackwatch, who is now within one fight territory of taking this.
Yeah, Rinku's struggling a little bit here on the Echo. Of course, he does not have the Mercy backup that you would often see with an Echo here. So he's struggling to keep himself healthy in the face of Lavius's Pharah. And it's been impressive. You can see again, Lavius tracking him down, taking him out first for the third fight in a row.
Oh, that is massive. 2 picks go down. Blackwatch really on the verge. They struggled for so long to take control of this. They've even got the Valkyrie fading out right now. But how do you deal with anyone? L in the air, just hammering in damage from above. The desperate attempts at the sound barrier coming out from Restiosen keeps them alive for a little bit longer. There's another barrage coming out there somehow. L building up so quickly in each one of these fights. It's now just the support and the tank from this XvG lineup to try and face it out, even with Blackwatch reinforcing, getting that res up there. Rexu coming in to try and fight this out there, back it up a little bit, and it's now him and Restiosen trying to keep it alive. Restiosen goes down there. Rexu not going to be long behind there now, doesn't have the support. Rinku Raireru tries to come out on the soldier, gets to the point at least, and there's a sound barrier just to make life even harder here for XvG Ragnarok there. Somehow Blackwatch just staying alive, managing to get kill after kill. They just got to secure it, and they do for just a second.
Yeah, very nicely played from Blackwatch there. They struggle to push through. We know how hard that can be on control center. You can kind of get stuck in the chokes, but once they regain control of the point, they just held it very effectively, finding a target. Al, sorry, I called him Lavius earlier, but it was Al on the Pharah. Doing an amazing job of shutting down Rinku Haireru there. I think I might like to see either Rinku change up the hero, change up the playstyle, or maybe give him some backup in the form of a Mercy. But it seems like Ragnarok have prepared to come in here with the Kiriko Lucio support lineup, and presumably that's worked for them in their preparation. So we're excited. I'm excited to see here if they can make it work on a map that in theory should be a little bit better suited to Echo's playstyle. But really it might come down to just, are you able to shut down this Pharah in the sky? And that can be a hard, terrible, just keeping himself on the map there.
Yeah, like you say, it's very difficult to shut down here. We see Rinku trying to swap between a couple of targets, find some nice picks here. They do get a nice kill on to Vertigo. I don't know what happened to Rexu on the side there, gets jumped off there. Rinku Raireru does go down though without that Mercy behind them, and it's up to Lord of Terrans now. Restiosen even falling very low, gets taken down there. A rocket is going to set it even worse. Rexu now nearly getting taken off the edge of the map, has so much to do, but a nice takedown there eventually shuts down this pesky Pharah, and it's up to XvG now to try and move on to the point, and they will secure it first again.
Very chaotic team fight, but Ragnarok coming out on top there. I think Rexu killed himself. He was under pressure, and he killed himself with his own bombs. So that was just a bit unfortunate for him. But they did a great job of drawing out that team fight and picking off targets one by one. Now the hard part starts though. The Pharah can come in from a lot of different angles, pressure a lot of different players. Kay is going to be a key target here for Al if he can find her, but it's going to be tough for Ragnarok to hold us. I think you can see the pressure they're being put under here, but Rink is going to try and pressure the Pharah out of the sky. But you can see this is not a mistake.
Oh, that was huge. Lavius, actually, this one being the tracer from him coming out and getting a nice stick to start that fight off. And it's actually been a good escalation and just really cohesive attack coming out from Blackwatch to be able to start off this fight, even managing to get the res at the end there. I started with a couple of good rockets there from L on the outside, but Lavius doing work on the ground.
Yeah, it's so hard to deal with Pharah on this map. You know, Soldier, of course, on paper, counter, but it's a lot of tracking you have to do to take a Pharah out of the sky, which you can stay so far away with how the damage drop-off works. And you see, this is what happens here. Kay, just a little bit out of position, perhaps even forced out of position by the Pharah of Al here, and you just get taken down so quickly if you're not careful. So it's really tough to push through against a strong Pharah like this. Certain players would call this Pharah abuse, if my memory serves.
Somewhat abusive, right? A very good pickup, and especially backed up by Honey, who's been doing super well to stay alive. Going to be hard-pressed now to get out of this tank visor. Rexu coming in hard. Manages to take out Vertigo. Just the one kill so far, KK with a beautiful little headshot, but still trading out between the two of them. There goes the Pharah counter, now really taking out Honey once more, doing so well to stay alive, and Hell dropping the barrage on the point there, being able to just stay alive and turn that fight completely. What an amazing offensive pressure they're coming out so far, and even though there was a turnaround in the possession of the point, it's going to quickly go back to Blackwatch.
Yeah, and as much as that fight was punctuated by Al's rocket barrage there, you can see the effect he's having on the game, because Terranor feels like he needs to do something about it as well now. Switching over to the Diva, perhaps the best counter to Pharah as far as tanks are concerned, and I don't know how much he plays Diva. It's not very common here at the moment, I don't think, and we'll see how they can perform. Kay, we'll get back into the point there with the swift step.
Very quick play there, and in fact it followed up very nicely here from XvG Ragnarok, managing to get onto position. Maybe this change up to the lab, doing very well, being able to take out those. Rexu swapping of course onto the Cassidy as well, as a little bit of a punch towards that, and now has the space to work behind the defense matrix.
Yeah, absolutely. Soldier's biggest strength, of course, is that he can move around the map quickly and keep himself healthy without taking pressure from his own supports. Cass doesn't have the same thing, but he's a much better great shooting from Rex there. Tracks down Lathers around the corner and gets rid of that pesky Tracer. Top! Oh, somehow Mercy getting away from that. I'm shocked.
I am very surprised. Honey was in a bad position. Now going to have to worry about this one as well. But instead, counted out there. The poop Rexu falling to the death there. Was trying to set up for that high noon. Gives some space now. And it's up to L to come back. And does have that barrel launch if they want to at the beginning of this. Right? A nice pulse bomb out there from Rinku Areru being able to take out one of the mobile characters. L once more starts off with that barrage. Gets the 1 kill. Follows up with a nice rocket to take out Rinku Areru and Elven Slayer, in fact, picking up both the mech and the Baby Diva form of Lord of Terror in there. It's back to Overwatch. To Blackwatch.
We're going to have to see here 13, 12, 11% on the clock here, and that's a bad start. We're taken out to start things off here. This damage boosted Pharah, one shot, a Tracer, so it's so hard to play Tracer into this. If Al has his wits about him here, Rexu might be the key here if he can deal with the Mercy and the Pharah in the sky, but no! Never mind, I take it all back.
Really nice jump into the point there by Lord of Terror and gets in there and allows the swift step on there. The two supports following up quickly, but eventually Lord of Terror's mech does go down, which means the Pharah now going to have a lot more space, and you can see it straight away as soon as the tank falls. Blackwatch able to overwhelm whoever's left and take the second map in a row, even after starting under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, 10-player kill streak at the end there for Owl. So clear to me who the stand-up performer is on this map so far. The Pharah just oppressive in the sky, both on control center and on the garden here. So it's a rough one for XvG Ragnarok. It's one of the heroes that can be so hard to deal with here, especially since everyone is playing with at least 150 ping. So Rexu, as good as he is on the cast, as we can see, it's a difficult, it's a difficult task to ask of him to deal with that. I like the switch onto the Diva from Lord of Turns. I think that was a solid move. We saw immediately how quickly it paid off. It just buys everyone time to move into position, to start putting their own damage out without getting unsettled by the damage coming from over the top, and of course the boop from the Pharah. So it's a rough one for Ragnarok, but of course it's very early days. We can say for sure that Blackwatch came in prepared. They did scrim before this match this evening, and I think it really shows. They've come in with the rhythm. Slow start on control center, but once they got that point back, they really didn't look back.
What I liked was how back and forth that whole matchup was. Ragnarok came in well. They came in with very good game plan. They're doing a lot of mobile heroes so far. They started on something like the Winston, backed it up with Rinku Areru on the Genji and Rexu on the Tracer. That is very much we're going to spread out. We're going to find the target that we want and then collapse upon them. And they tried that. And they nearly got away with it. They nearly got away with it. Even then, they were still chasing after a couple of key picks there, and Blackwatch taken out in the first fight on both of those points. Still, there's kind of two very different game plans going on right now between the two teams. And I wonder how Blackwatch is now going to be able to use that Pharah to the same efficacy when you don't have to control a big open area. When you know exactly where the Pharah is coming from, you can start putting in a lot more pressure from a concerted lineup who's going, okay, this is the one character who we have not been able to deal with so far.
I think on balance, Altruism, to me, I think Blackwatch has the better individual players. I think just looking at their lineup, especially the tank and the deep, I think they are better, and so their lineup excels at sowing chaos and forcing 1v1s throughout the map, and we saw that very effectively. If you're forcing Rexu to 1v2 into the Pharah, he's going to have a hard time. Elven Slayer doesn't care what his team is doing for the most part. He's going to get in there, he's going to charge up the mines, and he's going to get things done on the wrecking ball. And then you've got Lavius on the Tracer. Again, doesn't really care what his team is doing. The damage will come out from the sky, and he'll be able to jump in there and pick people off. And that is a really hard comp to play against when you're at what is, in my opinion, a relatively minor individual skill deficit, but still it can really be expanded when they choose this kind of play style. So I'd like to see Ragnarok lean into the team play a bit more. I'm not really sure. I mean, it's a nice thing to say, but in terms of how you actually do that, it's pretty hard to get done. But coming to King's Row here, as you were implying, it's a lot easier to get set up. It's a lot easier to have a plan that you can execute on, both on attack and defense. And as you say, you know where that Pharah is going to be coming from for the most part. She's got one or two options where she can pop up from at any point on the map, and you can shut those down. Hopefully you can deal with that Pharah if they even choose to run it, which for the moment looks like they are.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it right now. And I mentioned it very briefly, but Honey doing a phenomenal job there. The new player to this Overwatch scene in South Africa is Honey don't think died really that many times. Certainly not often before the Pharah did in the beginning. So keeping alive means that the Pharah, even when they get put under pressure by something like a Soldier or a Cassidy, makes it so much harder to just follow up there and secure the kill. Now a bit of another mobile comp coming out here from Ragnarok. Gets onto the point very nicely. They've lost their Lucio at losing a little bit of the mobility. Thankfully, each of the players has their own. But here comes these little individual fights that you were talking about before. Split up. The tank goes to the point, followed out by KK. But between the two of them, that's it. They've left everyone else behind. And it seems like everyone else, as they wanted to push out of that hotel, just picked apart.
Yeah, a very nice position from Owl there. Position sort of in the arch, an unusual place for a Pharah to play. More like a Junkrat than a Pharah, of course, but just able to pump so much damage into the Alderworth Hotel there and finding picks, of course. A single shot taking out Rexu there. It's so hard to play Tracer into a damage-boosted Pharah of the quality that Owl appears to be. But it's tough here for Ragnarok, but they've got another push coming in, and they're working towards a couple of ultimates. Obviously, that Pulse Bomb looks like it's going to be the first thing to come out.
Man, and in this lineup here from Blackwatch, they've also got that Reaper that you've got to be careful of. Vertigo now going to be falling down. The Lucios on both sides, in fact, really struggling to stay alive against all this damage and the instant burst that you can get them out there. Still, L being the one to secure most of the kills here. Lavius going down and not really getting to use those big shotguns into the face of the monkey. Still, Rexu kind of holding around now. Does not want to stagger into this lineup. Is now almost out of blinks. Trying to get back. Does actually manage to find a little bit there. And it's up to Ragnarok once more to try and start this fight from the ground up.
Look at the ultimate economy though here. Blackwatch, 3 ultimates at the ready. We've seen how much value they can get out of that, and look at that once again, one shot onto Rexu. They're taking out that Tracer, and now it's altruism. I'm sorry, this team fight is already over here. The triple barrage. Lavius cleaning up here on the Reaper alongside the rest of the squad. This looks like a pretty tough one so far for XvG Ragnarok.
Well, at least we did see them bait out the one ultimate. Oh, once more, Rexu just taken out at the beginning of the fight, unable to do anything right now. And it's up to Ragnarok to really just regather themselves for this last minute and a half.
All ultimates in the bank here for Blackwatch. They can throw 2 in your hold, and by the time the next fight starts, I'm sure Pharah will be close to their ultimate once again. Pulse Bomb at the ready, Genji ulti at the ready here. Lots of ultimates coming up for Ragnarok, but they're fighting now into the mines.
Oh, into the mines, into the Death Blossom. The first 2 taken out straight away. Lavius, complete confidence to now walk in, take out the monkey right there. Rinku now, the last one left. Lavius decides to just hang around in Wraith form. And again, like you say, just a couple of ultimates used and still both of the support ultimates online. But XvG has a couple for themselves if they're going to make it happen. It's going to be now.
Lavius in trouble. Yeah, out of position. Gets taken out by Rinku Haireru. This might be the opening that they need. He's not in a position where he can get easily res. And now they can come in with their DPS ultis. They will be going into the boost here. Sound barrier, from the Lucio and into the Valkyrie, which has just been popped.
KK just managing to stay alive there, does get out the Kitsune Rush. Still the sound barrier now on this Pharah. Pharah has really dived in on the point, decides to get out. Doesn't have a lot of kills. Rex is staying alive for now. The L manages to get up that one, but a good sound barrier to counter out straight away. Still, there's too many Blackwatch players, Ragnarok players that are dying. Blackwatch still looking healthy. Lavius back into this fight. They've used all their ultimates. Still, Lord of Terran has got up this ultimate if he needs it. Rinku doesn't get that much, certainly not enough out of the Dragon Blade. And it's up to the last desperate attempts here from Ragnarok. They've got 2, they've got 3 on the point. Of course, the monkey going to be able to stall it out if they need to. Starting to really put some pressure out the other way. But they're not able to deal with this presence in the sky right now. L still putting out damage left, right, and center. The stick may have changed it right right now. Honey could go for a desperate race if they want to. I don't think they need to, though. Elven Slayer and Lavius both still on the point, both able to do so much damage to this desperate attempt of Lord Terran to try and keep this alive. Rinku's now back on this, taking damage, instantly taken down there. Does find Lavius before he goes, though. So it's still 2 people, 3 people now from Ragnarok back on this, and Blackwatch reinforcing. They've cut off any other attempts to come back in here with this minefield. KK goes down, Lord of Terran goes down, and it is Ragnarok losing everyone, and Blackwatch with a complete hold.
Not quite complete, thankfully, from the perspective of Ragnarok. They did manage to get about half the point cap there, so there is something to defend. The draw is not on the table here, but from Ragnarok's shoes here, I'm asking a lot of questions of myself and of the team here, because that looks pretty rough, and no disrespect to Ragnarok, of course. I think that comes down to Blackwatch just being very well set in how they want to play this one. Sow the chaos with Elven Slayer and Lavius, and just allow the damage to come raining in from above, courtesy of Al and Honey. And you can see just Rexu having an absolutely torrid time on the Tracer. How many 2-3 fights in a row? He just got one shot by a damage boosted rocket. And you look at that and you ask, what are you even doing? But we know how strong the Tracer can be. We can see what it does when he's not getting one shot by Pharaoh, so you can understand the logic, but something needs to change here from Ragnarok. They need to figure out a solution to this composition, and the composition isn't all Pharaoh. You and I, Altruism, we know that. We've seen that a lot. There's many ways to deal with the Pharaoh composition, and it's not always killing the Pharaoh, but I think you need to shut down the Pharaoh, or you need to shut down Elven Slayer. If you can do either one of those, you start to open up something for yourself and the rest of the squad. But when they're both able to wreak havoc in the way they have been, you can have a really tough time winning team fights.
Yeah, I feel like that was almost the mentality of Ragnarok, was that we're going to kind of ignore you with the Tracer, with the Genji. It was like, try and quickly burst down anyone who's on the ground. But what happened there? I missed that one.
It was scary, just watching the Widowmaker just staring down the Sojourn. Thankfully he didn't die, but now they're under a lot of pressure. They've already lost 2 players here, Altruism.
Oh, that is not a great way to play this. And Elven Slayer, once more, you mentioned the previous one, just rolling around, has obviously been practicing these ball takes a lot. Look at that, plowing through there, means no one able to stand still. And once you boop them up in the air, Lavius waiting there, ready to pick them out there. Restioson and Lord of Terran trying desperately to try and stay alive here. Lord of Terran, Sigma, not exactly the tank that you need to be able to hold a point against damage from every side there. And it's up to now a desperate attempt. Rexu going to try and contest this out. Doesn't have a lot of percentage to play with. Is managing to stay alive for a little bit. Does actually manage to take out the Pharaoh now there. KK coming back in with the Baptiste. Boots out of the way. It means you can't get to the point. And Blackwatch take game number 2.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's a rough one. Again, Pharaoh just picking off so many to start these team fights off. Of course, player of the game this time goes to Al, aka Deadly, I guess. I don't know what they prefer to be called here. But really overpowering play. We haven't seen any Ramatra tonight, Altruism, but there's been plenty of pummeling nonetheless. I think it goes without saying. So you back to the drawing board here for Ragnarok. They've got one more map left. It's obviously Shambhali Monastery, a map where on paper I think Pharaoh is very happy to play on that map, but the sightlines can be quite oppressive, so we might be able to see Rex to get some value out of the Ashe, out of the Widowmaker, out of the Cassidy, and maybe that's the key to shutting down the the Pharaoh. But it's possible you might also want to just do a full tonal switch composition. You might want to slow your composition down again, but go into a Reinhardt, go into something a little bit more static, a little bit more stable, maybe the Orisa, maybe the Ramatra, and try and play around that. On paper, it doesn't sound amazing, but you're running out of time and options here if you're Ragnarok. They have called for a break though, so Coach Blur will be able to impart some words of wisdom, so we might see something big change here coming to the rest of the series.
Indeed, it's going to be up to Ragnarok. They've got one game left in the bag. They have not been able to find any sort of answers so far, and they're going to have to use this break in a very fast fashion. And we'll find out what they've got up their sleeves when we get back just after this. Welcome back to the Power Up Cup, ladies and gentlemen. Cows are bringing you all of the Overwatch 2 action right now. The first tournament of 2023, and we have the pleasure of bringing you week number 1. I'm Altruism, and Sun Phoenix is next to me here for this matchup here for XvG Ragnarok, who's currently struggling against a very powerful looking Blackwatch side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty dominant from Blackwatch. The first map was pretty back and forth, Legion Tower, but King's Row was all Blackwatch all day. So we have had a little bit of a break now before we head into Shambhali Monastery here, and we're going to have to see if conversations with Coach Blur have borne any fruit here. How do they solve the problem that we've decided we're going to call him Deadly now? So Deadly Sparrow has posed to Ragnarok here. They have solutions to Pharah in the past. They have an idea of how they would solve that, but it hasn't been working here. So now they have to dig a little bit deeper. Our usual solution to Pharah hasn't worked. So what's the next step? And that's what we're going to see here now, Altruism.
I'm interested to hear from you because you're the way more experienced coach, player, everything like that. Is the correct change to go for a Junkrat and a Bastion? Is that the standard approach to a Pharah that's wreaking havoc?
No, but anything can work. Dota 2 player called No-Tell said that once. Anything can work, and it's true. It's true across all of esports. Really, whatever works can work. So of course, they are on attack, so it's impossible to say what they're actually going to be running with here until the doors open up, as they will do shortly. And there we go. Yeah, sorry to disappoint you, Altruism, but it will be something a little bit more normal. But interestingly, Rexu on the Sojourn and Rinku now going to be on the Tracer, switching that up a little bit.
Rexu, that may have been his own call there, just being like, I'm having none of this Pharah rocket rubbish in my face anymore. You deal with it for a while. And so far, Rexu still having to pay the price. Doesn't matter what character you're on. And with that Sojourn being a pretty good potential counter for that Pharah, I think it's going to be very good. Look how aggressive Lavius getting in the front line, though. The whole of Blackwatch not afraid to run forward through there.
There is a substitute as well. Of course, we can see Cyberblade in here for Restioson on the Lucio. So yeah, that is a one change up that they have done to the roster here, but compositionally here, this is pretty standard stuff, and as standard as Deadly dominating on Pharah, it has to be said here. Lavius on the Hunter here, as we can see, is an unusual one, and he will get tracked down, taken down. So that's the start they've been looking for here. Can they convert that now into a teamfight win?
Oh, big plays coming out here from Ragnarok, actually. Just avoiding Elven Slayer, who's decided to pick up the Diva for this matchup. And here comes the opportunity. They've now finally managed to just be able to ignore the pharmacy that's causing them so much havoc, track down the people who are on the back line. And Ragnarok really putting on some pressure here, pushing up all the way to the outside edge there. Rexu nearly taking it, but this is good progress so far on the payload, managing to get all the way up there. That's a beautiful little stick there from Rinku, but not able to really close it out there. The power of the Mercy, and instead going to go down at the beginning of this. Lord of Terran kind of just trying to put a big body in this doorway and not let anyone walk out to try and contest that. Nice. 60 HP, but Deadly managing to get through has done enough.
Yeah, once again, Deadly just dominant on the Pharah. Interesting to note some of the changes that Blackwatch has made. Obviously, we're focusing on Ragnarok here because it's up to them to make changes. But Blackwatch have switched things up here. There's no ball from Elven Slayer here. Instead, he's going to be running the Diva. And then we've got Vertigo switching off the Lucio onto the Kiriko. So I'd be interested to know why they decided to do that. Clearly, it's working for them here. And it might just be exactly what they need to do just to keep Ragnarok unsettled here, because the Diva plays a totally different playstyle to the ball, and we have to see if Ragnarok can take advantage of that here. But bad start again. The Dragon Strike will be getting rid of Rexu.
Big play there coming out, though, was the problem was that Rexu tried to use that overclock on the Sojourn to be able to try and pressure the players in the air there, and didn't manage to really get too much out of it. Deadly is going to fall in this fight, though. A really nice pick up there from KK at the end. And Ragnarok actually looking pretty powerful right now. The pickup, though, coming back in, Deadly back into the fight. now. Their good bomb from Elven Slayer manages to take out a lot of this support lineup here from Ragnarok. Lavius going to be able to take out the second support, and so it's going to be very difficult for Lord of Terran to try and stick around here. Even Rinku being taken out in the air by Lavius, who swapped across onto that Cassidy.
Yeah, that was a pretty rough one here. I think the focus fire is a little bit off here for Ragnarok. The supports need to be dealt with in a neutral situation. Once you've picked off Deadly, you need to stop the Mercy from getting that raise. You've done the hard part. You need to stop the carry from coming back to life there. Unfortunately, not able to shut down the Mercy there, and immediately you could see the value that Deadly brings if he's able to be brought back to life. Rinku here, closing in on the duplicate. Best target, maybe the Diva. There's not great targets here on the side of Blackwatch here, but there's a great start. Vertigo's a key pick to get to start things off.
Very nice. That duplicate on the Diva would at least be able to help them deal with that fire in the air, but they're going to need a tank because Lord of Terran going down straight away. Vertigo also picked back up. Deadly now going for that barrage over the top, and in fact, everyone from Blackwatch doing super well to quickly clean this up. This is in overtime, and so Ragnarok once more looking to not even be able to capture the first point, and they are going to be denied.
Yeah, once again, just too strong. Blackwatch. I mean, yeah, it's really hard to say what exactly needs to change here for XvG Ragnarok. They're clearly trying a couple of different things here, but it seems to me like they're happy with what the core of their lineup is doing. One thing they haven't changed is, well, for the most part, is what Terran Lord is doing and what the two supports are doing compositionally. They are dead set on running the Kiriko, they're dead set on running the Lucio, they're dead set on running the Winston as well. So that's an interesting thing to note for me.
Why though? Like, it doesn't seem to be doing that much with it. What is the game plan there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's really tough. But let's see what they bring out here on the defense again. That is the core of their composition here. I think their game plan is, as we suggested, Ultras, is ignore the Pharah, shut down the backline. But the backline is so hard to kill with what they've been playing with. Hanzo's not that easy to shut down. He's mobile. He can stand and fight if he's got the backup from a Mercy or Vertigo's Kiriko. It's not going to be that easy to take down. And now we see Deadly. I mean, they're on the attack, so it's hard to say. But for the moment on the Soldier, I'd be shocked if he came out on the legs here. But we'll have to wait and see. But that seems to be what they've decided to do. Let Rexu try and pressure Deadly out of the sky, buy time for the team to kill the rest of the players on Blackwatch. But it's just not working so far.
I mean, who are you even supposed to be able to kill there? Vertigo has that swift step away, is able to get out there. Honey not really sitting on the ground as an obvious target there. Deadly going to be swapping it up and taking that Echo out there. That's an interesting play and does manage to take out the counterpart. So whenever Deadly gets into the air, obviously a very, very dangerous player to go against. And now going to be able to see there. We see Elven Slayer also coming in the back line there, pressuring everyone with that Diva, allowing options coming out there. Beautiful. Lavius getting on the ground there, managing to get that pick there, get him a second one, even though he's not credited with it. A really nice play and a very upfront Widow from him.
Yeah, well, Lavius, one of the better Widows you'll see, at least historically speaking. That was probably one of his more iconic heroes alongside the Hanzo as well. But I think, honestly, it feels like Deadly's just like, I need a bit of a challenge here. Let's try something a bit different. Obviously, the complexion of the hero is pretty similar in terms of what they do and how they play, but something a little different here. Maybe we're bored of just dominating from the skies here. Instead, he'll dominate from the skies, but with a laser beam instead of some rockets.
Oh man, this guy's just played too much Quake in his time, I think, and has every weapon down pats, being able to get some work out there. Lord of Terrans gets some work out there. Here comes a big duplicate coming out. This time from Deadly, manages to get onto the Sojourn. So going to have that overclock in absolutely no, does manage to build it up straight away there. Going to be going for it. Lavius instead has done all the work already. Manages to get the 2 pick outs there. So while Deadly manages to get that last pick onto Rinku, there's just no one left from Ragnarok to really contest here.
I think if you're Ragnarok here, you take a lot out of this game of what your problems are and how you solve them going forward here. It's not quite over yet, but they've got a long... It has to be quite an incredible play here on to close out the map. And as we can see here, they can't afford to make any mistakes here. There's still a diva on the top. Lavius on this DSTV satellite dish here. I'm sure the people in the house are a little bit worried about that, but whatever. DSTV is so expensive, they're probably better off this way. So Alvin Slayer now getting the picks. It's so hard to get the picks here on the side of Ragnarok. They're really, really struggling to close it out.
Oh, completely just taken apart here. Ragnarok taken out. Deadly and Lavius doing so much work between the two of them, able to take this out there. And like you say, who needs DSTV when you've got such a beautiful Kalsa stream to watch, so gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to come to an end, though, so maybe find something else there, because Blackwatch in a clean 3-0 sweep, and once more, 3 out of 3 games, man of the match coming out deadly once more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to spoil something for you here. He's my player of the match in general here. I don't know if that's something controversial to say. I think he was a dominant performer, I think goes without saying. Of course, Overwatch is a team game, as we're always quick to say. It's very seldomly just the efforts of one player that wins you a match. And I called out Alvin Slayer before, or pointed out Alvin Slayer before as a player who was really contributing a lot, and on the Diva you don't have quite the same impact, but he's showing a flexibility that we just weren't seeing out of their opponents today. Ragnarok didn't seem like they had a solution beyond what their initial solution already was. So it's a learning game for Ragnarok here. I think it's a hard hit. I know they've been preparing very well coming into the Power Up Cup here all the way since the end of last year, and this is going to be a bit of a knock to their confidence perhaps, but we know that these players, we know Coach Blur as well, they're going to sit down, they're going to look at what they were doing, what they did wrong, and what they need to improve going forward. And I think from my perspective as a person who knows comparatively little when compared to the likes of Blur and most of the players on this team, it did seem like a little bit of inflexibility might have been a problem for them. We saw on the Lijiang Tower Gardens how putting in that Diva just seemed to buy them just a tiny bit more space to help Rex to get some work done. But it seems like the core of their lineup they were happy with. It was between them and Blur, they had identified that it was a playstyle shift that needed to happen, and sometimes that can be the truth, and you just don't have the time to get to grips with the execution in the one map that they had to sort that out. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Ragnarok. I know they're a team that's preparing and working hard, and that's a team you want to look at over the long term. You want to look game to game to game. How are they improving? How are they responding to their own weaknesses? And that's going to be the most exciting thing to see coming out of this match. Not to discredit Blackwatch, but it's very clear that they were the better team today.
100%. They had a gameplay. They didn't have to change up too much. Decided to vary one or two little things depending on what map they were going on. But the core idea was there, and they executed it fantastically well. And let's give credit. This Blackwatch team only really put together about a week ago, ladies and gentlemen. So really good to see them being able to come together. XvG having a little bit of history behind them, and you can tell that they're definitely going to try and put in that work, and they've got the time. This was just week number 1 of the Power Up Cup, ladies and gentlemen. So there's plenty of new matches to come up, and I'm sure that when these two teams come up again against each other once more, whether it's in this cup or in one of the semi-finals, finals, or just in the general rest of the future competitions, they're going to have some bone to pick here with the Blackwatch side. But like you say, bring it to an end there. XvG trying their hardest, has some work to do, has some things to think about. And what's most exciting to me is just to see that Overwatch 2 really is as diverse as you could want it to be. Farah not picked up by every single team, but when it is picked up by someone who knows what they're doing, and then backed up by a team who can stay alive when they're on the ground, Honey playing fantastically around the rest, and the chaos that Blackwatch was able to ensue, that is a beautiful bit of Overwatch to watch. And I'm excited to see what the rest of this team can do.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at what we saw yesterday and the day before, we saw quite a bit of Ramatra being key to those series. Cubic on the Ramatra really able to perform extremely well. And I think it was Super BH in the Thomas Small game. He was really dominant on the hero as well. Didn't show up once in this series. Alvin, of course, we know him. He seems to be outing himself as a ball one trick here a little bit, of course, other than a little bit of work on the Diva at the end there. And Terran seems to want to be on that Winston all the time. But it's very cool to see that across all 3 roles, there's been a lot of variation on what teams are wanting to run. So I'm excited to see how much do these teams learn from each other as well. You know, you've now got a little bit of footage of what other teams in the competition are playing. Does that affect what you do? How do you respond to what your opponents might be more comfortable playing? All those kinds of things are exciting to see unfold over the course of this 4-week, I think it is, tournament.
Yep. 100%. Another month worth of action for you guys coming up there. And if you want to keep up to date with all of that, come to all the good socials. Time has come to punt all the good socials. ZA Overwatch being the big one that you need to follow on Twitter there to keep up to date with all of the Kalza action. And if you want to keep involved with, you know, the personal stuff that we do, Sun Phoenix, where do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I logged in now, thanks. At Sun Phoenix on Twitter, SUNPHEONYX. Haven't been tweeting much, really, but it's F1 launch season, so I'll probably spew some cold takes out over the next month or so. But yeah, that's where you can find me for the most part. Otherwise, here on these casts. So if you want to see more of me, just tune into these competitive Overwatch, say a Power Up Cup casts, and I'll probably pop up more often than not.
Either that or he'll be in the chat with you guys, busy insulting Peach. One of the two is the most.
Or altruism.
Or me, for some reason. Phoenix doesn't value his position here as my co-caster for some reason. But, I mean, he basically runs Kalza, so we got to give him a little...
That is not true anymore. But anyways, don't tell the admins you said that, please.
Yeah, if any of the admins are in the chat, I am completely just joking right now. You can kick them off if you really want. No, don't do that. But if you guys are enjoying watching it, of course, go write down his spelling there because it's ridiculous.
Yes.
And if you want to go follow me, much easier to spell, much easier to say, at Altruism, easiest way there. And a big shout out, of course, Kalza for putting this on, and the Peach ZA, the wonderful person in the background, bringing you all the action this weekend. And a big shout out to you guys for joining us here on the stream, whether it's Twitch or YouTube or just in the VODs later. Hope you enjoyed this action. It is the end of our first week of the Power Up Cup, this being the last one for the weekend. 3 great games, so many big plays, hopefully some cool highlights that the guys will put up on social media, but lots to play for in the next coming weeks. 8.5 grand up for grabs for these teams to fight it out. 13 teams for now, but we'll have to narrow that down as we get going. Last words, Sun Phoenix, for the night.
So glad to be back into competitive Overwatch. I know tonight wasn't the closest of games, but there's always something you can take out of these matches. And if you didn't tune into yesterday's match, then you're missing out. It was a really awesome back and forth game, almost a reverse sweep. So there are good games going to be happening over the course of the next 3 weeks. So you guys really don't want to miss it.
Yeah, that's it. Kalza's back. We're here for 2023, and we'll bring you all the action we possibly can. Until the next one, though, have a great evening, have a good week. Cheers.